I'm R.J. Nestor, productivity coach and founder of the Action-Powered Productivity community, and I want to talk about a concept that I created called productivity bridges. I mentioned in a separate video that our primary goal in work is to always start in the middle, so we skip past startup stuff that steals our time and effort. We capture all of that into templates and automations and strategies and links to resources and materials and all of these various things. And all of those various things fall into the category of what I call productivity bridges. Bridging is an action you take now to increase the speed, accuracy, or quality of future work. And the result of that bridging action is a productivity bridge. And that or that's there with quality is inclusive. An ideal bridge may increase speed, accuracy, and quality. But it's going to take the form of a template or an automation or a procedure or routines or a recurring task or links to materials or resources required to complete work or more. There are other categories. But the idea is that they all fit into this overarching concept of a productivity bridge. And because they fit into an overarching concept, it makes it easier for us to spot where those bridges can be valuable. I may not know, for example, in advance whether I want to use a template or an automation or set up a keyboard shortcut or whatever that bridge may be. I may not know what that is when I first see the opportunity, but because I know the concept of a bridge, I can say, hey, there's a place where my work is not moving as smoothly as I'd like, where I'm expending time and effort that I don't want to be wasting there. I need a bridge to go past that time and effort so I can focus my attention and energy where I actually want it to be. Opportunities to build those bridges can be difficult to see at first, but recognizing the opportunities is a skill you can develop. Now, my applied action-powered productivity cohorts and the community itself are largely devoted to seeing those opportunities. That's what we do. We look at our work and we say, hey, where is the time and effort being expended that I don't want to expend? And then what kind of bridge can we build to get us past that wasted time and effort? What can we turn into a template or an automation or a procedure or a recurring task that takes that and turns it into something then that will recur reliably, and we don't have to expend our energy there. The concept of bridging applies universally. Every aspect of productivity can benefit from well-built bridges. The type of bridge you build depends on what you're bridging. If I'm trying to arrive at tomorrow and then, start each day more reliably or more consistently, well, I need an agenda. And there may be some pieces of that agenda, some sub-agendas that are routines or procedures that help me wake up in the morning or help me take care of emails at midday. I'm making these up. It doesn't, whatever it may be aligned to you. But those particular types of bridges may be combinations of procedures or routines or an agenda or recurring tasks. But the ultimate goal is the same. Everything that we're doing is serving the overall flow of our productivity. And we're not making it so that we become automatons. We're not going to say, hey, now now I don't actually have to do anything. Everything's processed. No, we capture everything that's the waste of our time and effort, or that's not, or taking our attention away from where it needs to be, so that then we can expend that time and effort where it is most valuable. That's why we build these bridges. What's cool about bridges is they actually serve as a proxy for productivity itself. So when I've built templates and automations and procedures and what have you into my system, and note, I'm talking about small things. I'm not saying you have to, build them all at once. Solve a little problem here, solve a little problem there. Eventually a system will emerge. But when I do this, my overall productivity will improve, which means that the number and the quality of the bridges in my system is actually a useful proxy for productivity itself. If you're bridging most of your work, you're almost certainly being more productive. And so we can then look at, hey, where are the bridges? How are they functioning? Could they be better? That is a way of thinking about overall productivity that is more concrete and more actionable than just sort of this broad, well, what's my system look like? In action-powered productivity, as a result, then, we get very fine-grained about bridges as we explore specific implementations, whatever your toolkit is. But there are 4 categories that I think are useful to kind of shape the idea here. You can have documentation bridges, which are what I call notes to future you. And they're the things that you write down so that you keep track. They might be notes or they might be tasks. But the things, a note being, something that may not be actionable in and of itself, but that supports a project or is a bit of knowledge that you're developing in a separate workflow, or is simply, a manual for a thing that you just bought and you need to find it when you need it, but you won't necessarily need it to surface on its own. All of those things are forms of notes to future you, and those are all things that make work a lot easier, because you have access to information that facilitates your work. That's what the idea of a documentation bridge is. You're taking a note that will surface when you need it. If it's a task, it's probably scheduled for a specific day. If it's tied to a project, it will show up when you're with the project. That future you will be able to use. That's a bridge, because future you then has that and they don't have to start from scratch and find that information. It's arriving where they need it. Automation bridges, shortcuts, text expanders, macros. A simple Command Z, or if you're on Windows, Control Z, is undo in almost any app you use. I'm telling you, I use undo 100 times a day. If I hit Command Z as opposed to reaching over, grabbing my mouse, moving it to the edit menu, clicking, and then choosing undo, I'm going to save 3 seconds every time I do that. 3 seconds. Well, what's the big deal? 3 seconds 100 times a day is 5 minutes. If I save 5 minutes, say 6 times a week, we'll say 6 work days just for the sake of easy math, that's 30 minutes a day. If I work 50, weeks out of the year, or 50 minutes a week, or 30 minutes a week, rather. If I work 50 weeks out of the year, well, there you are. I've saved 25 hours by hitting Command Z, the aggregation of marginal gains. A little bit, done a lot, saves you a lot of time. But you can also get a lot more than that. If I have a text expander I type a quick little snippet, and suddenly I have a whole email that I send 47 times a week, and I don't have to type it from scratch each time. I can do in 10 seconds what might have taken me 4 minutes. And if I send it 47 times a week, well, there again, do that math. Macros that can automate whole processes, like moving me from one app to another, copying and pasting this thing over there, and a lot more detail than that. When we recognize an algorithm that we do manually a lot, we can capture that in an automation. We can save a ton of time capturing that recurrence so we can focus our attention on what matters. Strategy bridges, finding proven ideas for reaching goals that other people have done, or that we can go have a conversation with ChatGPT and say, how would you go about this, to give us a starting place. That bridge then assures us that we don't have to do it exactly as it is, but we have something to start with. We're skipping over the fishing for something that we have no idea where to start. Template bridges, capturing reusable work, capturing all the pre-done work of something in a template, and then capturing modular variants for things that may be slightly different depending on context. And then capturing placeholders for the information that may not be the same every time in a template, but the type of information it's going to be. You build some templates around that idea, and it's going to bridge you past all of that recurring stuff that doesn't matter, so that you can, not that the recurring doesn't matter, but that your time and effort doesn't need to be expended on. So you can focus that time and effort on what is new or what is novel or what requires that attention. Now, I'm going to find in my structure of my systems, the template bridges, the documentations are what we use most often. But there are automations that work for me that are very fluid. There are strategies that are really important to me, and as I develop new things, they're all really valuable. It isn't the category that's the most important aspect. What's important is asking yourself, am I doing this work efficiently? Am I doing the right work? Am I putting my time and effort where I really think it's most valuable? And if any of those questions open up some room for improvement, a bridge is what you will build to make that improvement. And it might be a template or an automation. It might be a strategy. It might be a recurring task or a procedure. It might be any number of things. But the idea is recognizing the room for improvement, recognizing that we're not starting as much in the middle of the work as we want, and that we are putting our time and energy in a place that it's not the most valuable to us. That is the core of finding where bridges belong. And that is what directs your attention to making that improvement in your system by building a productivity bridge.